After 4 days of jury selection, Alabama's electronic bingo corruption trial is underway in Montgomery.
The case started with the prosecution painting a dark picture of one of the defendants, Victory Land owner Milton McGregor. They describe him as a man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. His motive? They said in 1 year, McGregor made $4 million in profit, only to not make any profit the following year after his casino was raided. McGregor's attorney, Joe Espy, says in the recordings of McGregor with other defendants, bribes are never discussed. He says the government will have a tough time proving this case beyond a reasonable doubt.
This retrial is all about greed, corruption, and proof. Proof on the prosecution's side that each of the 6 defendants bought and sold votes in support of pro-gambling legislation. Prosecution attorneys said in opening statements they will find each of the 6 defendants guilty. They say each political official not only violated the law, but also turned their backs on the people they were supposed to represent by accepting bribes. They say they have the wiretaps to prove their guilt. However, defense attorneys say there is nothing on any of those recordings to suggest that a bribe took place. I spoke with Victory Land casino owner Milton McGregor's attorney this morning, and he appeared confident in his defense.
I think it's going to be different. I think we're going to hear some different things from the government and also some different things from us.
The prosecution will bring witnesses on stand to testify. One of those witnesses is former Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley. Coming up in the next hour, we'll hear what Senator Harry Ann Smith's attorney had to say about the charges. Prosecution attorneys came out swinging in the courtroom this morning. They say this retrial is about bribery and corruption. Federal prosecutor Emily Ray Woods say Victory Land casino owner Milton McGregor bribed legislators for their vote on pro-gambling legislation during the 2010 session. They say all that will come to light once the jury hears wiretaps. But defense attorneys say nothing short of a bribe was ever mentioned on any of those tapes. Says McGregor was a man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. She says he made more than $40 million in a year and lost $4 million the next year after Victory Land was raided by former Governor Bob Riley's anti-gaming task force. Wood says the motive is clear, but McGregor's attorney Joe Espy said he has a strategy that will prove his client's innocence.
We listened to we went in with a plan. We went in prepared. And then we listen to the evidence and we'll make a decision as we go down the road.
The questions remain. Who would take the witness stand during the trial? Prosecutors did not use former Country Crossing lobbyist Jared Massey's picture as part of their opening arguments, leaving defense attorneys to question if he will be called to testify. Friday, a legislative reference service employee and one of Massey's co-workers, Jennifer Pouncey, will take the stand.
Today, Pouncey told the jury former Alabama State Senator Larry Means asked her for campaign funds after she sought his support for pro-gambling legislation. Now, she testified that Means asked for $100,000. She considered that to be in exchange for his vote. Pouncey says her boss, Jared Massey, told her to promise Means the money, and she did so about a week before he voted in favor of the legislation. Pouncey also testified she offered $2 million in campaign contributions to former Alabama State Senator Jim Pruitt, and that was in exchange for his vote on pro-gambling legislation. She told the jury the $2 million would come from former Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley, who also pleaded guilty in the case. Now, Pouncey says Pruitt didn't respond to her offer and changed the subject, but did end up voting in favor of the bill.
Testimony in the federal bingo corruption retrial continued today, but around 5 o'clock, the judge called a recess to discuss who would be taking the stand next. News 4's Devin Sellers has been following that trial today, and she joins us by phone from Montgomery with the latest on that. Devin?
Well, the attorneys say it was a good day for the defense. Former lobbyist Jennifer Pouncey was on the stand for the 3rd day, and she admitted to offering bribes for votes in the past. Today, Milton McGregor's legal team introduced a loose tape into evidence. In the tape, Ronnie Gilley and Jared Massey were suggesting Pouncey expose herself to a former senator. Now, Espy says this piece of evidence has changed the makeup of the whole trial. At this time, it's unclear who will take the stand tomorrow. The prosecution is discussing whether to call Ronnie Gilley as the next witness or to push him back in the trial. We should know later this evening. And, of course, we'll bring you that information at 10 o'clock. We'll also have interviews with defense attorneys Joe Espy and Susan James about the trial and what's expected in the coming week. That's us.
All right, thanks, Devin. Now, if Gilley takes the stand tomorrow, we will be there to cover his testimony.
The 4th day in Alabama's bingo corruption retrial is over, and attorneys believe it was a good day for the defense. Questioning of former Country Crossing lobbyist Jennifer Pouncey wrapped up today. She's already pleaded guilty to offering bribes for votes in the original trial. Today, Milton McGregor's legal team introduced lewd tapes into evidence. In that tape, Ronnie Gilley suggests to Jared Massey that Pouncey expose herself to a former senator for votes on pro-gambling legislation. Defense attorneys say they're using tapes like this to paint a picture of Gilley and Massey for the jury.
Didn't tell you that, but that was our strategy going in. We felt it was important for the evidence to get in, and we got the evidence in, and I think it was strong evidence. That's certainly what we feel. And I think it, as you noticed, it changed the entire complexity of this trial.
After today, prosecutors shuffled their order of witnesses. Ronnie Gilley is the third witness scheduled to testify tomorrow. Former Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley took the stand today in the federal bingo corruption retrial. He told the jury that electronic bingo machines were extremely lucrative for casino owners and said he wanted slot machine lookalikes. Gilley said he was originally against Victory owner Milton McGregor's gambling bill, saying it would have prevented him from opening, but he said the two of them eventually decided to join forces, and they struck a written agreement. Gilley says that agreement did not specify how much money earmarked for political activities would be used, but he said McGregor knew some of it was being used for illegal activities. Gilley was on the stand for about an hour today. He's expected to testify for several days.
Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley is on the stand for the second day.
News 4's Devin Sellers has been in the courtroom today. She says Gilley went into detail about offers to bribes to Alabama lawmakers.
Many would call Ronnie Gilley a key witness in this trial. He is one of only a few connected to all defendants.
Looks like we're in for a long day. I anticipate Mr. Gilley will probably be on the stand all day long.
He would be right. During the government's questioning, Gilley testified about multiple occasions where he was involved in an effort to bribe legislators for votes. Gilley said one way he worked to get former state Senator Jim Pruitt's vote was proposing a democracy tour. He says the phrase democracy tour was used to hide illegal activity. Gilley said he would host a fundraising concert by country stars for Pruitt, similar to State Senator Harry Ann Smith's back in December of 2009. He also said former State Senator Larry Means wanted $100,000 for his vote on pro-gambling legislation. Both voted yes, but Gilley said he never delivered on his promises because the FBI launched an investigation.
Y'all have a good day. We'll see you later.
After lunch, prosecutors played multiple wiretapped phone conversations between Senator Smith and Gilley. He testified Smith returned an unsolicited campaign contribution, saying it would look better coming from someone else. Gilley stated the money was given to lobbyist Jared Massey for him to funnel. Once delivered, Gilley says Smith hugged him and said, "I'm yours. Let me know what you need me to do." Still, the defense will have its turn with Gilley.
Test of any witness is cross-examination.
And they know he's prepared.
I would think, that would be the responsible thing for anybody to do that's going to testify, both sides. His demeanor's changed some, I think, but, it's always good demeanor on the front end, and then the back end you get to see the real person.
The defense could have their turn questioning Gilley as early as Friday.
Testimony in day 6 of Alabama's gambling corruption retrial is over. Today, Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley took the stand for the second day. Early in the day, Gilley testified he offered former state Senator Larry Means $100,000 and former state Senator Jim Pruitt campaign assistance. Gilley also elaborated on earlier testimony when he said he bribed State Senator Harry Ann Smith. He says Smith requested $400,000 split into 4 $50,000 checks placed in separate accounts. Regardless, the defense says they are not discouraged.
I thought today was another really good day for me, and it's just one more day closer to proving my innocence. So it was a good day for me.
And the one thing that we have said to each of you all along is, that cross-examination is where we have an opportunity to bring out our side of the case, and that's what we've tried to do today.
The government will resume questioning tomorrow morning.
The prosecution started off the day with questioning Ronnie Gilley, and unlike the first trial, it's prosecutors who brought out the damaging comments. This morning we heard another recording made accidentally by Scott Beeson. In one clip, Beeson referred to green patrons as Aborigines. Gilley said although he didn't agree with these views, greed would have led him to purchase Beeson's boat. Gilley stated he let his ego get out of control. He says he is now about $116 million in debt and has less than 1% ownership of Country Crossing. Gilley also described how he gave former Representative Terry Spicer of Elba $20,000 in a cell phone box. This was to gain Spicer's support and help pass a bingo bill in the House. Now, Spicer has also pleaded guilty. Defense attorneys say they aren't concerned with the lengthy questioning by the government.
Well, don't forget, they heard opening, and everybody was pretty thorough in opening as to what we expected the evidence to show. So I'm hoping that they're looking at it, very carefully and waiting to hear us.
Now, the jury doesn't have to wait any longer. The defense began questioning at about 10:15 this morning. Walter McGowan was up first for Milton McGregor, and Susan James will be second for Jay Walker.
The government questioned Gilley for a day and a half, and by mid-morning, the defense had their turn.
We all ready.
Prosecutors began Friday's session by playing another accidentally recorded conversation by Senator Scott Beeson. In one clip, he says another racist remark about Green Track patrons. They quickly moved on to bribes between Gilley and former Alabama representative and former Elba City School Superintendent Terry Spicer. Gilley says Spicer requested $20,000 in cash through lobbyist Jared Massey. This was to gain Spicer's support and help pass a bingo bill in the Alabama House. Spicer has pleaded guilty to a single count of bribery. Gilley stated he let his ego get out of control and he has less than 1% ownership in Country Crossing. Gilley says, I am upside down, negative $115 to $116 million. I'm broke. Defense attorneys say they aren't concerned about the lengthy questioning by the government.
Well, don't forget, they heard opening, and everybody was pretty thorough in opening as to what we expected the evidence to show.
The defense began cross-examining Gilley, reviewing his plea deal. When first asked if he believed he needed to bring defendants down in order to get a reduced sentence, he said no. The attorney then questioned Gilley about a recorded conversation with his wife. In it, he says he would need to bring others down to reduce his sentence. The defense suggested Gilley would do anything to lower his sentence. His maximum punishment is 22 years in prison. Defense attorneys are trying to discredit testimony that Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley gave against defendants.
Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley is back on the stand today in Alabama's gambling corruption trial. This is his fourth day of testimony.
Defense attorneys have been questioning Gilley all morning. Susan James, the attorney for former Country Crossing spokesperson Jay Walker, picked back up where she left off last Friday. Now, Gilley says that two investors paid Walker to be the spokesman for Country Crossing because they wanted someone more polished than him. James then spent a large chunk of time trying to show the jury Walker did not work directly for Ronnie Gilley. She says Walker worked for a group of investors. During the questioning, Gilley says Walker was not provided with a car, pension, insurance, or workman's comp through Country Crossing. James stepped down, but she's not finished with Gilley just yet. Judge Myron Thompson says she can finish after he rules on some pending matters.
This is the third day the defense has questioned casino developer Ronnie Gilley. That's after one day of questioning by the state. Susan James, the attorney for former Country Crossing spokesperson Jay Walker, was back up Tuesday morning. She tried to show the jury Walker was not part of Gilley's inner circle. Last week, Gilley said he told Walker to offer to buy trucks from a former state senator's dealership for his vote on pro-gambling legislation. Tuesday, James got Gilley to acknowledge he never made that offer and isn't aware if Walker ever made an offer either. Gilley also testified that investors paid Walker to be the Country Crossing spokesman because they didn't think Gilley was polished enough. Walker was also only paid $12,000 for his services, and that was after Country Crossing was forced to close in January of 2010. Senator Harry Ann Smith's attorney was up after lunch. I'll have more on his line of questioning at 6. Senator Harry Ann Smith's attorney, William White, was up to question the Country Crossing developer after lunch. He continually grilled Ronnie Gilley about his truthfulness. Tuesday afternoon, Gilley admitted he hasn't always been an honest man, but said now he is telling the truth. However, when White pressed the issue, Gilley was not able to say when he switched from being dishonest to honest. This is one line of questioning by defense attorneys to question how truthful Gilley's testimony has been. But Gilley says his plea agreement requires him to tell the truth and says that's what he is doing in court. He continues to insist he's not lying to receive a lesser sentence after pleading guilty to bribing state legislators. One defense attorney says the state could rest soon.
You know, a number of witnesses have been eliminated, and I think we're getting fairly close to the end of the government's case. Then the real question is, what's the defense going to do? And I don't know that that's been decided yet.
There are two other defense attorneys remaining to question Gilley, and the attorney for former Country Crossing spokesperson Jay Walker will also have another shot once the judge rules on some pending matters.
While on the stand over the past week, Gilley has been much more reserved than many are used to seeing him. His answers have been short and restrained, but today he became a bit more aggressive toward the defense's questioning.
Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley's time on the witness stand during the gambling corruption retrial could be coming to an end. Today, 3 defense attorneys, including State Senator Harry Smith, drilled Gilley on his honesty and the accuracy of his testimony. News 4's Devin Sellers has been in Montgomery today and has the latest.
Wednesday morning, Smith's attorney William White tried to prove some discrepancies in Gilley's previous testimony.
Good to see you. It's going to be a good day.
It seemed to be for her and the 5 other defendants in Alabama's gambling corruption retrial. During one part of questioning, White focused on a call between Gilley and Smith. During the call, you hear Smith tell Gilley she needed $400,000 to finish her campaign. Gilley says Smith was asking for a bribe, but White suggests she is asking for help securing funding. White says she never implied it was a bribe. Defense attorneys say it's important for jurors to realize that.
Well, you know, it's just always important to try to point out any discrepancies, regardless of who the witness is. Point out the discrepancies, and you know, that's the kind of stuff that creates reasonable doubt, again, regardless of who the witness is.
After lunch, attorneys for former State Senator Jim Pruitt and lobbyist Tom Coker had their turns with Gilley. Gilley testified that he never made any campaign contributions or bought any trucks from Pruitt. He also said that he never even met Coker until they had already been arrested in the gambling corruption case.
Well, the federal bingo corruption retrial is closer to coming to an end. Once the jury starts deliberating tomorrow, we could expect a verdict at any time.
The fate of the 6 defendants in Alabama's gambling corruption trial is now up to the jury.
The jury got the case Wednesday afternoon, but they did break early in the day. Today, they've been in deliberation for about 2 hours. Now, the jury did have to start over completely this morning after one juror was excused for personal reasons.
One juror was dismissed this morning for personal reasons, but another alternate took that spot. But now it's appearing they're having a difficult time, and that's just to reach a verdict.
It looks like the jury may be having a very difficult time reaching a verdict here in Montgomery. Deliberations finally got underway at about 10 o'clock this morning. That's when U.S. District Judge Myron Thompson put an alternate juror on the panel after one had to be excused for personal reasons. That meant the jury had to start over, including selecting a new foreman. After about an hour of deliberation, the jury asked to have a copy of the courtroom transcript, but Judge Thompson said no. They would need to rely on their own memory. After breaking for lunch, the jury sent the judge a schedule that calls for deliberating all day Friday, 3 hours Saturday morning, and 4 hours Sunday afternoon. Smith's attorney Jim Parkman says don't read too much into the schedule. With nearly a fourth of the charges this time, the defense says that could translate into a speedy verdict.
You know, when you cut down a number, then it cuts down the problem. So I hope so, but who knows? But I think the jury, you know, is going to do a good job. There's nothing that we know other than just trying to straighten out some of their personal problems. There's just nothing to it. It really isn't.
Now, we have heard that one juror does have to attend a funeral on Saturday, and that could be the reason for the abbreviated schedule. Of course, News 4 has team coverage here to bring you the latest on the fate of the 6 defendants.
The jury of Alabama's bingo corruption case is deliberating for a second day.
Deliberations began just after 8 o'clock this morning, and by just after 9 o'clock, the jury had sent the judge another note.
Well, jurors will be working through the weekend in the electronic bingo corruption retrial. A total of 4 notes have been delivered to U.S. District Judge Myron Thompson. Defense attorney Joe Espy says it's normal to have jurors ask that many questions. Last year, a dozen jurors spent a week deliberating on 124 counts. Now, this time around, jurors have 28 charges they need to deliberate on. Espy thinks jurors have a better understanding of the charges this time.
I hope that we this time clarified those issues. I think we did, but I think obviously we just need to see. Mr. McGregor and his family are confident. They're also very, very appreciative of the hard work this jury's doing, and they're appreciative of all the friends like Johnny Ford and others who have come down here to join with them.
News 4 will have a reporter in Montgomery this weekend with the latest details on that retrial. Jurors will return to the federal courthouse tomorrow morning for 3 hours and then for 4 hours on Sunday afternoon.
A recent filing in Alabama's electronic bingo corruption retrial has one defense attorney on edge. News 4's Demetria McClinton was on verdict watch this morning. She has the latest from Montgomery.
The jury still has not decided on 28 charges against the 6 defendants, including Victory landowner Milton McGregor and Alabama State Senator Harry Ann Smith. Prosecutors filed a motion Friday to have Victory Land casino owner Milton McGregor immediately jailed in the event he is found guilty in the retrial. McGregor's attorney Joe Espy said his client is innocent and he's upset about the timing of the notice.
We take enormous issue with what they did yesterday afternoon. We take great issue with the fact they filed it after 4:30.
Prosecutors say McGregor is a flight risk because he has a private jet and could fly out of the country to a place where he can't be extradited. They're also concerned his electronic monitoring device wouldn't pick up his location in time. Espy has filed papers to refute the notice. Defense attorneys are looking to wrap things up tomorrow. That's when the jury will meet again for 4 hours. Reporting in Montgomery, Demetria McClinton, WTVY News 4.
Well, it's day 5 of deliberations in Alabama's bingo corruption retrial, and we continue to wait for a verdict.
This afternoon, we could see attorneys and the judge going in and out of the chambers, but it's not clear what they were discussing. They went in and out about 3 times, but nothing was ever put on the record. Tessa?
Just keep on waiting, I guess. Thanks, Devin.
It is day 5 of deliberations here in Montgomery, and sometimes it can be difficult to see what progress the jury is making, and we are looking for signs everywhere. Today, one of the first signs came shortly after the jury began deliberating. Only 30 minutes into deliberations, a note was sent to U.S. District Judge Myron Thompson. Now, that note said they couldn't find one of the exhibits. Now, Thompson then told jurors where that piece of evidence could be found. Attorney Joe Espy and State Senator Harry Ann Smith said this could be a good thing. It shows they are taking a hard look at the evidence. In addition, we saw some evidence leaving the courthouse today. Boxes marked taped conversations were removed. Also, following lunch, there were several meetings in the judge's chambers. And although we aren't sure what was discussed, there is speculation that an order by Judge Thompson back in November was the topic. That order said court would be in recess this Wednesday through Friday. But attorneys say that may not happen.
I don't believe there will be any recess on Wednesday. Hopefully we'll have a verdict by then, but I would not anticipate any. If we do not have a verdict by Wednesday, I would not anticipate a recess.
The jury will deliberate for a 7th day in Alabama's federal bingo corruption retrial.
Many of us were so hopeful today that a verdict would come down. It only took the jury 7 days in the last trial to come up with multiple not guilty verdicts. Today was very, very quiet in the courtroom, and no notes were sent to U.S. District Judge Myron Thompson, and the sequestered jurors quit work at about 3:30 this afternoon. They deliberated for roughly 7.5 hours.
Devin, anything happened today that maybe we're getting closer to a verdict? I know people are kind of antsy about this.
Well, Tessa, only if the saying no news is good news rings true. Today was very quiet in the courtroom. There weren't any notes sent to the judge, and attorneys only entered the judge's chambers at the end of the day, and that was once. The verdict is in. All 6 defendants are found not guilty in the federal gambling corruption retrial.
Just after 9:15 today, the jury in the federal bingo corruption retrial announced 28 not guilty verdicts. Here's a rundown of the defendants and their charges. Victorland casino owner Milton McGregor faced 10 charges, the most for any of the defendants. McGregor was found not guilty of conspiracy, not guilty on 4 counts of bribery, and 5 counts of honest services fraud. State Senator Harry Ann Smith of Slocum faced 8 charges. She was acquitted on 1 charge of conspiracy and bribery, 2 counts of honest services fraud, and 4 counts of money laundering.
Former Country Crossing spokesperson Gerald J. Walker faced 2 charges in this retrial, conspiracy and bribery. He was found not guilty of both. Tom Coker, a lobbyist for Milton McGregor, also faced 2 charges of conspiracy and bribery. He was also acquitted of both of those charges.
Former State Senator Larry Means of Etowah County faced 2 charges. He was found not guilty of conspiracy and bribery. And former State Senator Jim Pruitt of Talladega faced 3 charges. He was found not guilty of conspiracy, bribery, and making a false statement. The former senator, however, still faces a charge of conspiracy and 1 count of bribery. Prosecutors say Pruitt agreed to accept $2 million in campaign support for his pro-gambling vote. He also still has 1 count of making a false statement to FBI investigators.
I got my life back today.
The celebration starts now.
We heard sentiments like these from every defendant.
The first not guilty I heard on Milt McGregor, tears was rolling down my cheeks, and I never stopped crying. But it was tears of joy for sure.
State Senator Harriet Smith of Slocum also shed tears when the verdicts were read, saying she did it for the people back home.
I don't think you could call that I associated with Ronnie Gilley. I just stood up for a vote for the people of my district to allow them to have a voice.
It took jurors 7 days to acquit all defendants on all charges in the high-profile federal case. 6 defendants were accused of conspiracy and bribery for pro-gambling legislation in Alabama. The defense team never wavered on their client's innocence. This trial cost the government a lot of cash.
One of the major networks, either ABC, CBS, or NBC, has told me the number is over $35 million. I think it's more than that.
And it could be. Another source is showing the government spent more than $50 million. And that doesn't sit well with some.
We're seriously looking at appropriate legal action against people who may have wrongfully caused some of this process, or may who have wrongfully participated.
They do what they want to do. This issue has ended for us today.
What hasn't ended is Senator Smith's career. She plans to return to the Senate Thursday, but she doesn't plan to return to the Republican Party.
I like being able to be an independent and stand up for the people of my district, the issues that matter to my district, and not have to follow some party's agenda.
Country Crossing developer Ronnie Gilley, along with 2 lobbyists and Terry Spicer, all pleaded guilty before the first trial. They are set to be sentenced in April.
State Senator Harriet Smith has a lot of support from the town of Slocum. From day 1 of the federal corruption trial, the community has rallied to support her. Now that she has been cleared on all charges, residents are relieved. News 4's Deanna Benton, as she was in Slocum earlier today. She's back in our newsroom now with what some residents had to say. Deanna?
Reg, many of the residents I spoke with today were happy Senator Smith is in the clear, not only because she was found not guilty, but also because now she can focus her time and energy on the community.
I'm very excited over that. It's about time. It's long overdue.
When the federal bingo corruption trial started last year, many residents didn't think it would take this long to reach a decision.
She deserves some relief, you know, and deserves some time to relax. That poor woman has been worked up for God knows how long, and she's been through a lot of stress and turmoil.
I'm sure proud that she wasn't charged with anything. I don't believe that she ever had anything to do with it. She's never been nothing but a success to this area, and I hope her continued success.
Other residents who didn't want to speak on camera said they're happy she was found not guilty, but feel the trial was a huge waste of their tax dollars. Viewers also weighed in on Facebook, and their comments seem to mirror that idea as well. Ryan H. says he's sick and tired of wasteful government spending. Greg W. says it's a waste of taxpayers' money. No matter how the trial turned out, residents said all they wanted was Senator Smith back in her hometown.
For Harry Ann to have gone through this and still been elected and put in the office by our citizens, it says a lot.
Some of the residents said they would love to have another welcome home party for Senator Smith, like they did last time she came home from the trial. Reg?
All right, thanks a lot, Deanna. We appreciate that tonight. Again, all 6 defendants were found not guilty on all counts. For a complete list of the charges and verdicts, just log on to our web channel, WTVY.com.